And away we go, episode 1145 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, September 1st, 2025. It is the first day of a new month. It is Labor Day 2025. And yes, there is a new episode of this podcast for this Labor Day. We are laboring on this Labor Day. Hopefully you are not laboring. Hopefully you are enjoying yourself on this Labor Day. Perhaps you are in labor. I guess that would qualify as laboring. But whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, and however you are doing it, it is good to have you with us. And we have a lot for you. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, which follows Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. And this is a podcast on which we talk Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. The Commanders 2025 regular season opener is this Sunday. Commanders versus the New York Giants at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 1. And so next segment, a special treat, an in-depth preview of the Commanders 2025 regular season, as I'll chat with Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN. And we are going to cover a lot of ground, including how the anticipation for the Commanders' 2025 regular season compares with the anticipations for other highly anticipated regular seasons for Washington, why the team expects quarterback Jayden Daniels to be even better in the 2025 season than he was in his all-time great 2024 rookie season, what the trade acquisitions of left tackle Laremy Tunsil and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. mean for the offense, whether receiver Jaylin Lane is poised to make a significant impact in his rookie season, the outlook for the team at running back, the thought process with the new-look defensive line as it relates to run defense, and where we are with two wild cards in interior defensive lineman Daron Payne and cornerback Marshon Lattimore. John Keim, next segment, with a high-level preview of the Commanders' 2025 regular season. Also on the show, college football, discussion of the season openers for the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region, including blowout wins for Maryland, Navy, Virginia, and James Madison, competitive losses to ranked teams for Virginia Tech and Old Dominion, and a win, but also a scare for Liberty. And on the show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they over the weekend got swept in 3 games against the Tampa Bay Rays at Nationals Park and had bad injury news regarding starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore and starting pitching prospect Jarlin Susana. The Nats now have lost 8 consecutive games. What a nightmare this Nats season has been. The Nats over June, July, and August went 25-53, 53 losses in 78 games. The O's, they over the weekend lost 2 out of 3 games at the San Francisco Giants, although the win included yet another great outing by starting pitcher Trevor Rogers, who remains on fire. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Kim on the Dallas Cowboys this past Thursday evening, trading edge defender Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. Writes Kim, "Hi Al, do you wince when it is mentioned that the boys traded a generational talent? Let's see, who does that comment remind you of? Juan Soto. Regrettable trade to this day, no doubt. Happy Labor Day." Thank you for the email, Kim. Same to you. Actually, when I hear the phrase generational talent, I think of an edge defender who the Commanders traded, Chase Young. Chase Young, in the lead-up to the Redskins taking him with the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, often was referred to as a generational talent. The Cowboys are getting destroyed for trading Micah Parsons, and they do deserve plenty of criticism. They should have signed him to a contract extension last offseason before the edge defender market exploded this year with mega money contract extensions for the Cleveland Browns' Myles Garrett and the Pittsburgh Steelers' TJ Watt. B, the Cowboys trading Parsons felt rushed. They should have been able to conduct much more of a bidding war for a guy in Parsons who is an elite edge defender. Who knows how much more of a haul that the Cowboys could have gotten for him. C, the Cowboys have a big money veteran quarterback in Dak Prescott, have a big money receiver in CeeDee Lamb. They, in theory, should be a win-now team. Trading Micah Parsons was the move of a rebuilding team, or at least a team that isn't all in. So there's a lack of congruence here. On the one hand, the Cowboys have a quarterback in Prescott with reportedly the highest average annual value in the NFL, $60 million. On the other hand, the Cowboys just severely weakened their team for this coming season via trading Parsons. Now, all of that said, I do think that the criticism of the Cowboys for this trade has been a little over the top. First of all, The Cowboys got back first-round picks in the 2026 and 2027 NFL drafts. 2 first-round picks, and also got a good, albeit aging player in interior defensive lineman Kenny Clark. Now, yes, those first-round picks will be late first-round picks if the Packers are really good, but this is the NFL. A lot can happen. A lot can change. A lot of unpredictable things can take place. 2 first-round picks are 2 first-round picks. There's a lot of good that can be done with 2 first-round picks. B, there is a compelling argument to be made that no defensive player is worth the kind of money that the Packers gave Parsons in this contract extension that he just signed with them, a reported average annual value of $46.5 million. Defense in the NFL is volatile, is unpredictable, is very dependent on the quarterbacks who the defense faces. I mentioned Myles Garrett, as great as he is, and he is great. What exactly has he meant for the Browns when it comes to winning? Not a ton. Defense in the NFL is much more about the whole than the sum of the parts. And I earlier mentioned Chase Young, the all-first-round pick defensive line that he was a part of with Washington. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne. A classic example of the whole not equaling the sum of the parts. Email from Gary in Ocean City, Maryland. Writes Gary, "Hi Al, as with everyone, we appreciate your daily coverage of the Redskins, and I appreciate that you do not use profanity. There are a couple of other local shows that I would like to listen to, but do not because of the periodic bad language that I don't want to hear and don't want my wife or grandchildren to hear. But my reason for writing is that I bought the RFK All Access book. I received it just a couple of days after ordering. It's great. I use PayPal. One disappointment, you mentioned Steve Spurrier the other day, but did not drop the not very good soundbite. All of those drops are so enjoyable, especially the Joe Gibbs laugh. I am laughing as I write this, and I enjoy the periodic updates on your family. Thanks for everything. Hope your health is doing well." Well, thank you very much for that, Gary. You know, the beauty of that Steve Spurrier soundbite is that it led to Joe Gibbs. That Steve Spurrier soundbite is from December 2003 in his final press conference as Skins head coach. And then the following month, the Skins, shockingly, miraculously, hired Joe Gibbs as team president and head coach for a second stint with the team as head coach. Here is the classic Steve Spurrier bite.
Okay, we wound up 5-11. Not very good.
Yeah, that is an all-timer, a perfect encapsulation of Steve Spurrier as Skins head coach. Nice guy, meant well, but not at all cut out to be an NFL head coach. And the Skins were a mess at that time with Dan Snyder as lead owner and Vinny Serrato and also Pepper Rogers. Each guy had the title of Vice President of Football Operations. Good times. And yes, an outstanding new book for you if you're a Washington fan or for a Washington fan who you care about is RFK All Access by Scott Cunningham. Scott served as a photographer for NFL properties for years. He photographed the Redskins extensively during their glory days in the 1980s and early 1990s. And Scott, via RFK All Access, has put together a compilation of his best Redskins photos, many of which are behind-the-scenes photos. Joe Gibbs, Jack Kent Cooke, Richie Pettibone, the Hogs, the Posse, Sonny Sam and Frank, all, and so many more are featured in this book, which is 392 pages of glorious Skins history, 5 pounds of Redskins gold. If you are a serious Washington fan, if you are a Skins historian, this book is a must-have, makes for a terrific addition to any Skins-themed man cave, also makes for a great gift. This is a book that has been endorsed by Joe Gibbs himself. Quote, "This is a great book filled with great memories," end quote. RFK All Access. You could get the book by visiting rfkallaccess.com and use the promo code ONLYAL for a special discount. That's rfkallaccess.com, promo code ONLYAL for a special discount. What will the Commanders do for an encore to their Renaissance 2024 season? The 2024 season was year one of a rebuild/recalibration for the team, and yet it in the 2024 regular season went 12-5 and then went 2-1 This past postseason, Washington in the 2024 regular season made the playoffs for the first time since the 2020 season, finished with a winning record for a regular season for the first time since the 2016 regular season, finished with at least 10 wins in a regular season for the first time since the 2012 regular season, finished with at least 11 wins in a regular season for the first time since going 14-2 in the 1991 regular season, and then came the postseason, in which Washington notched its first postseason win since January 2006 and advanced to an NFC Championship game for the first time since January 1992. I am very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN. John has covered the Redskins/Washington football team/Commanders since 1994. He has been with ESPN since August 2013. So actually, John joined ESPN right as Skins quarterback Robert Griffin III was all in for week one of the 2013 regular season. Perhaps these two things are related. I don't know. John is the host of the John Keim Report podcast. You can follow John on X at John Keim. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing well, Al. How are you?
Doing well. Good to talk to you. Your time covering Washington more or less coincides with the team's time since the glory days of the 1982 through 1992 seasons. We in the post-glory days era have had plenty of anticipated regular seasons for the team, though many of them have ended up not being so good. But 2000, 2004, 2012, 2013, 2016, 2021, all were anticipated to varying degrees. How would you compare the anticipation for Washington's 2025 regular season with the anticipations for those other regular seasons for the team?
I mean, part of it is it's recency bias, right? So it's going to be as high as anything because 2013 was also pretty anticipated, right? Because you're coming off the season, the 10-win season, Robert did what he did, and there was so much excitement about the future. Even that year, like I remember Jason Reed had him in the Super Bowl, I think, and I had him with 11 wins. And but you knew there were some cracks in the foundation that you started to see, right? But sometimes you kind of ignored. You don't see those cracks here. So I think externally there was a lot of anticipation for that year. I think internally, I think there was maybe a feeling like it may not go as well as people think. And here I think it's probably a little bit different and maybe more because of all that's happened in the last 20 years, that this is the first time that I think they can feel really good in a long, long time. I mean, the fan base and all that. But I just had this conversation the other day with somebody about this, and 2000 was a year I pointed to because you're coming off the thing, and you have Carrier coming in, Dion, Bruce Smith, all that whole group, and then Joe Gibbs coming here, right? Him coming back was like, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. But this season, I think it's just different because of what they did last year, what you see in Jayden Daniels, and feeling like there's competency throughout the organization. So maybe it's like, whether it's for this year or not, I think for the future, it's probably more. Because even when Gibbs came back, Al, I remember I'd be at a bus stop with my neighbor, right? Like drop the kids off, you'd sit there and talk. I'm like, the minute Gibbs leaves, it goes back to what it was. Because Dan and Vinny were not going to take the lessons. Oh, Joe told us this, let's just do this. They weren't, the owner wasn't smart enough to do that, right? So that's why I think whether it's for this season or this era, I think this era should be the most anticipated, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think that's a good way of framing things. Jayden Daniels, how do you follow up maybe the greatest season by a rookie quarterback in NFL history? You wrote a really good piece about this for ESPN.com, came out on June 3rd. Headline, quote, "Why Commanders Expect to See a Better Jayden Daniels in 2025," end quote. Why do the Commanders expect to see a better Jayden Daniels in 2025?
It starts with the way he works, because the way he works is just different. And he hasn't changed that. He hasn't changed. I think that we'll start with that because that's important. That was the way he worked is the reason why spring and summer, you thought this kid's going to be really good because of all the stuff you heard about that. It wasn't him showing Instagram photos of him dragging a tire up a road, right? Like, it's not what quarterbacks do. They get in the film room, they study, learn the playbook, they learn to read defenses. That's what he does. And so you combine that with the skill he has, and I think that's why they feel good. And then I think the humility, Al, because that's a word that you would hear a lot with him, to the point where, he didn't change who he is. And it wouldn't have been the first time if a guy has that kind of success who then changes who he is, or at least maybe starts to believe the hype or embraces the hype a little bit more. That's not him. And I think, he went back. I talked to one of his quarterback coaches from the summer. And he's like, when he came here, first of all, he started texting him within 2 weeks of losing the championship game because he wanted to get back to work. And the guy's like, just take a minute here. But he said when he showed up, it was like they had gone 2-15 because he just, it's like he put that year behind him. And for him, it's always looking forward. What I did here doesn't matter. I've got to do this here. So I think all of that is why I think, it starts there, right? He worked on his footwork, something they wanted him to do. Not that it was bad, but he wanted to get it better. And, so there's that. And yeah, I think it starts with the work and the humility. I think if you have that, then with that skill, you're going to go far. And the hard part here, Al, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ramble, but the hard part is, all this talk about sophomores, there is always will he have a sophomore slump? Well, first of all, the schedule is different. The schedule is a lot harder. So you're facing better defenses. So are the numbers going to look exactly the same? Well, who the hell knows? But it may be a tougher test for him because of who they're playing. They did a good job getting more talent around him, but but it's not going to be because he has somehow regressed.
The Commanders' offense last season was so good and so smart. Offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury did such a good job. The trade acquisitions this past March, left tackle Laremy Tunsil and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. What can they mean for the offense, especially in terms of an expansion of the playbook?
So I think, well, first of all, with Tunsil, it's just you got a lockdown guy. So that obviously helps. He's athletic. So, and I also think the trickle down from him is Brandon Coleman going to guard. I think I always, you went before the draft or even after the draft, people would say again, could be a good tackle, could be a really good guard. I think there's just a guard body build to him. But I just like him inside. I think there's some strength that he has there, athleticism in there. So now you have two athletic guys there. And then getting Connerly on the right side whenever he starts, athletic. So I think he makes the line better because his addition impacted a couple spots. They had the guard in place. They just had to put him in there. So I just think it strengthens that. But, and I think with the line overall, with the addition of Tunsil is the ability on the screen game, which is a huge part of this offense, is to get out in space and block. And I think that's another big addition there. And that ties into Deebo Samuel because that's something he does well too, right? In terms of getting out on the screen. So now you got guys who can block in space. It should help him be better, right? Or put him in creative or in spots where you can get a little bit more. But I think the other thing is, I was looking at the other day, I think the receivers like Olamide, Diami only carried the ball about 6-7 times last year. There wasn't a big part of the jet sweeps and all that. You're going to see that different this year with Deebo. Him getting on some of those jet sweeps and using him as a running back, or as a runner, because it's not always going to be as a running back. It's going to be as a jet sweeps, and just holding that edge because that he can do something with it. And how does that then impact the run game, right? Like, so if you're giving the jet sweep to him, if you're faking it, you've got to honor it. So that little hesitation backside can be a big deal for whoever it is, Rodriguez, Krosky-Merritt, Eckler, whomever, right? So I think there's that impact when he doesn't have the ball. But then I think the last part with him is just that underneath stuff, getting a guy underneath who can break tackles the way he does. And you saw them in the preseason in practices, especially in the joint practice, getting him the ball in situations where it now becomes one-on-one and you break a tackle. And that's what his strength is. And I think getting McLaurin back helps open up that underneath for him.
Not many quality rookie seasons for Washington receivers in recent years. So the last receiver to have a really good rookie season for the team was Terry McLaurin in 2019. Before that, Jamison Crowder in 2015. The Commanders took Jaylin Lane out of Virginia Tech in the fourth round of the 2025 NFL Draft. He is drawing a lot of praise. Do you think that Lane is poised to make a significant impact in his rookie season?
Significant, well, I would add punt returner to that. So I think his impact will be felt a lot there as well. So that's where part of that impact will be. As a receiver, it's hard to say because right now, I do think they'll use him because he's got speed and they want to use speed. And I think one of the things that Dan Quinn talked about the other day was his ability, his improvement at learning how to beat man coverage, something he didn't have to do a lot of in college. So I think that allows him, and he can make play. They know he can line up in the slot. Can he go outside? And they think that he can. We'll see, but certainly from the slot, he can be a big help. So I think he can have an impact. Significant. I think when you have the problem is that you have Terry, Deebo, and then even Noah Brown. So I think it's going to lessen what they need from him, but I think in his role, he can have an impact. But again, I would add punt return to that because I really like him there. We didn't see a long return this summer, but you see the traits that lead to that. And I'd say the same thing even on offense. And one of the things I like about him is that he does seem to, and I think a lot of guys do, but you certainly see with him, taking advice and implementing it. And, even on punt returns, he talks to Brian Mitchell, right? And Brian worked with them in the spring for one day, but he seems to listen to what is told to him. And I think it helps him grow. So I think he will have an impact. How significant, I don't know, but he will have an impact.
The Commanders on August 24th announced having traded running back Brian Robinson Jr. to the San Francisco 49ers for a sixth-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The four running backs on the Commanders' initial 53-man roster for the 2025 season: Chris Rodriguez Jr., Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Austin Eckler, and Jeremy McNichols. Internally, is the thinking that the team is going to go with a running back by committee approach, or is there perhaps an anticipation that a true RB1 is going to emerge?
I don't think they have that one guy that you can eye like that. Like, I think Chris Rodriguez has done a nice job this summer. I don't think they're ready to go to the point where it's like, hey, this is the guy. Like, I haven't heard that. But what you do hear, the running back by committee, they like for Rodriguez, they like areas that he improved for sure. He got in better shape. He's a little bit faster. I think it's helped his balance and, as one coach said, his fluidity. So I think that helps. But I don't know that you can now elevate him to say, like, okay, after 3 years now he's ready to take off. I think it's going to start off by a committee because you have Eckler, you know what he can do, and Eckler can be a big help. They like Jeremy McNichols. And then Bill and Krosky-Merritt, right? But it's hard to. And then the other part with that, Al, too, is you throw in Deebo in there for carries, and you have Jayden because Jayden is a key to their run game because of what he can do and the threat he poses. Doesn't mean he's going to run 15 times a game, but I think you add it all up, and I don't know that there's going to need to have the need to be that one guy. But I do think what you want to figure out is, okay, it's 3rd down and 1. Who you putting in? Well, that would make sense for like Rodriguez or any, actually Krosky-Merritt could do that too, but I think Rodriguez is a little bit more size. But I don't think they're going to have that. I don't think they're going to have that one back. It may unfold a certain way, but I think that might be more of ride the hot hand. This, it's working here. Let's go this. But I think they have guys who can do things and they want to focus on what those guys can do, if that makes sense.
Much more with John Keim in moments. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Founded in 1979, the Nace Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The Nace Law Group fights for what it believes in: you, your family, and your future. You with the Nace Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The Nace Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. We're previewing the Commanders' 2025 regular season with Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN. The Commanders this past offseason revamped their defensive line, in large part to improve the run defense, which was quite bad last season. The team has 9 defensive linemen on its initial 53-man roster for the 2025 season. 4 interior defensive linemen: Daron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton, and Eddie Goldman. 5 edge defenders: Von Miller, Dietrich Wise Jr., Dorrance Armstrong, Jacob Martin, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. What is the thought process with the new look defensive line as it relates to run defense?
Well, they added size. We know that, like, Dietrich Wise is a strong guy on the edge. That helps. Like, they did not set the edge as well last year. And that's like Dante Fowler ended up having to play a bigger role than they anticipated because it's just Clelin Ferrell, who got cut earlier in the week, wasn't there, or wasn't always available because he had a knee situation, et cetera. And then so Fowler was playing more, not good at setting the edge. So they got a guy in Wise who can set the edge with a strong edge. So that helps, right? And then you get a big guy, Javon Kinlaw. He adds a lot of size in there. Now, he's been inconsistent throughout his career. We know that. And I know their thinking is that he's dealt with a lot of injuries during this, in the first part of his career, during the season, but also in the off season where it doesn't allow you to strengthen, rehab, you're just rehabbing, et cetera. We'll see if that plays out that way. You saw in the summertime, he plays with a lot of strength. There were twice against was it the Bengals? I can think it was the Bengals, where it just like stunned the heck out of the guards. It would have been the Bengals because he didn't play in the other one. So stunned the heck out of the guards just with some power, right? And like that helps, but he's been inconsistent with those areas. And then Eddie Goldman coming in, supposed to be a run stopper. I don't think he had the greatest summer, but that's what he does. So I think you have that. And then the other thing they'll talk about, Al, too, is, and they'll bring this up when you talk to them, like you talk about the lines, like, listen, the secondary didn't help as much either, with the corner play and all that. So like, I think they feel better with that because they have a responsibility in that too, to prevent things from getting worse. But so it adds up, I think they'll be better. I also think there's more depth. So you have a chance to sustain a certain level of play that maybe you couldn't last year, but just, again, I think just more size. And it has to pay off because the run defense was terrible last year. And I can't sit here and promise it's going to be this great run defense because we don't know yet, but I know why they improved, why they sought these players. And, the last thing too, Alex, sometimes you'll see they can put out some pass rush packages this year where it's a bigger pass rush package. So you have like Jacob Martin as an edge, coming up as a line, edge rusher, right? He's a little bit bigger, sturdier than like a Von. Von's got a lot of strength, but he can play the run too with that. Daron, Javon, and then Dietrich Wise, all of them capable of getting to the passer, but all of them also offering size. So if it's like a 3rd and 3 and you just want to rush the passer, you still have some size to deal with maybe a different kind of run, if that makes sense. So, we'll see. It's got to be better because it was just bad. And if it's not better, then there's going to be problems.
Yes, there will be. 2 big wild cards for the Commanders' defense are interior defensive lineman Daron Payne and cornerback Marshon Lattimore. Does Payne have his first truly good season since his terrific 2022 contract season? Does Lattimore stay healthy and play well? Where are we with Payne and Lattimore?
Yeah, so I think with Lattimore, it's hard because you're right. It's just all about durability. And we can't know that right now because the season hasn't started, right? So like, will he? And he even said after the New England scrimmage, and there's a couple things with Lattimore. One, and this is a comfort level, right? So last year when he came here, he did not want to talk to the media, and I like you're hurt, you don't feel like it's a new situation. There was one day they basically had to chase him down in his car, and we just wanted just get an update. He was coming back, and he came out. He talked to us. He was good for 3 minutes, but like it's not that it was something where like I hate these guys. It's like he doesn't like doing it, right? This year he stopped a number of times and was really good with it. And I only point that out because I think it speaks to a comfort level of where he's at with everything. I think like last year, he come here, you're hurt, you're not where you want to be. Even if you're back on the field, you're not the player that you can be or want to be because you're still affected by whatever, rust or whatever, right? Maybe you're not hurt anymore, but are you back to where you want to be? I think he feels like he is. And that's the one thing, like he talked about, like seeing the burst that he has in the spring. He talked about this. And you saw that this summer. We'll see, the thing that was hard this summer, Al, is that we didn't see him against the kind of receivers he's going to go against. That's where not having Terry McLaurin out there a lot to have some of those one-on-one workouts or just in 11-on-11 settings to go against a receiver that is at the caliber or close to it of the, certainly right there with like the A.J. Browns of the world, right? And, the CeeDee Lamb, these are like top 5 receivers. So we didn't see that. But the other part he talked about after that scrimmage was that he acknowledged, like, listen, I haven't played a lot in 3 years. So I'm still getting back parts of my game. And that's like the technical aspect, the footwork aspect. And he just thought like he just needed a lot of time to get that back. So I think that could be like, so I think the durability part, we can't answer, but where his game is that something that, where's it going to look like against the Giants? And is it going to steadily get better the more you play consistently, right? If you're out there on the field consistently, because I think that's a big deal for him. And then Daron Payne, is the one thing I heard in the spring too is just how much maybe more again comfort or I don't want to say relax. I think that's the wrong word because you can take that the wrong way. But how much more maybe gregarious he is, like outgoing, I think is probably a better word. And it just is that because of where he's at? Is it because and this isn't like, okay, John Allen's not here anymore. Now it's Daron Payne is the guy up front. It was always John was an alpha male. And this is not a knock on him. It's just that, hey, it's almost like, your big brother, little brother thing, right? And your big brother goes off to college, now you're the guy in the house, right? And I just wonder if or is it just a matter of like, hey, you just feel really good about where you're at. And I don't know, but people saw a change in him like that. So, will it translate? I don't know, but they loved his offseason. He looked pretty good this summer. The hard part was like, they did rotate a lot of guys. So you're not always getting to see like, oh my gosh, this guy's just dominating every day. I think he's a guy that you're really, really curious about because the impact he can have in both the run and the pass game can be tremendous. And he has to have more impact. And this is a big year for him too, because if you don't, this will be his last year here. His contract it balloons next year. So if you don't have that good year, you're probably gone. If you have a really good year, then maybe you can do something with your contract.
Final question. I back in June on episode 1098 of this podcast discussed theories for why the Commanders' home attendance for the 2024 regular season was down from the team's home attendance for the 2023 regular season. The 2023 team, of course, was awful. The 2024 team, of course, was spectacular. And yet the 2023 team outdrew the 2024 team. Not by much, but the fact that attendance for the 2024 team wasn't up significantly as compared to attendance for the 2023 team is bizarre. Do you have any idea why this was the case? And what are you expecting for the Commanders from an attendance standpoint for the 2025 regular season?
That's an interesting thing. I haven't thought much about that. I would wonder, sometimes it's like, who are the opponents you're playing? So I think the year before it was heavy. It was my memory's being tested but I think it's whoever that opponent is, as we know, at that stadium, it has been a safe haven for the opposition. And so I think like that plays into it. I think there was probably more, Commanders fans going to games, but maybe less overall because of who the opponents were. Like, are you maybe not drawing quite as much? So, because that is a factor. So this year, what I'm expecting is probably a different type of atmosphere than we've seen in a while. Like, those secondary ticket markets have just dominated that stadium. I have a feeling that those days are going to change. And I think you'll see, how much more attendance, I don't know, but I think you may see a different split in the attendance and getting it back. I think it's going to take a few years to redirect the issues from the past. And that's, again, the secondary market, and also then getting them excited to buy tickets again. And then especially now, like, hey, buy tickets now, maybe it gives you priority for the new stadium. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons why in the next couple of years it could get back to something. But I do think you'll see a little bit of a change this year with, will we see 20,000 fans behind the visiting team's bench? That's lunacy for a team to allow itself to be put in that situation. And that's from the past. That's not this group.
Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN. John, thank you. All the best.
Appreciate it, Al. Always enjoy coming on with you.
All right. We talked about Jaylin Lane. Man, the compliments that he has been receiving really stand out. Here was receiver Terry McLaurin during his press conference this past Wednesday evening.
Jaylin Lane, I think, is a guy who's really going to have a chance to help us, not just in the return game, his dynamic ability, but, some people may think he's just in the slot. And to be honest, I saw his film. He has a lot of plays out the slot, but I've watched not only preseason, I've watched practice, and, he can play on the outside. His speed, his ability to get vertical, he's actually more physical at the top than people probably give him credit for, which is a key component of winning on the outside receiver. Being as an outside receiver, winning physically, because you're going to get a lot more press. And so his ability just to continue to be hungry and be a sponge and ask all the questions, I'm going to continue to try to help him as much as I can, along with Luke, Jacory, Jacoby. Chris Moore is a great guy in our room. Just all the guys we have in our room is amazing.
Okay, a lot of nice words from Terry McLaurin for Jaylin Lane right there. And then during head coach Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference this past Thursday afternoon, had this exchange between Commanders insider Tom Shad of the Washington Post and Quinn.
You mentioned Jaylin Lane. I guess I'll start with a specific question. You knew what you were getting in him kind of when you drafted him. What has surprised you about him over the past couple weeks?
We knew the punt return ability was really strong. What I probably didn't know, and I knew he was fast and explosive, but the way that he's taken to coaching from Bobby, you can almost see the drill work come into the play. And so, like, there's a specific way you run an option route when somebody's on you. You don't want to hustle too quickly because then the defender's not really into the stress. So seeing him fully express how to work somebody into a technique, that's a really big deal, because in college, especially on offenses that play really fast, there's not as much man-to-man. And so that's one of the things that can be more challenging for a slot or a wide receiver that's playing in a tempo offense, because college plays faster than we play. So you see less matching and tight coverage. So they're able to run their routes at full speed and hit it and go to the next play. And so running an option route, defeating leverage, beating people in man-to-man, that's been an impressive, I'm not going to call it catch-up, but like development from the time he's arrived to where he is today.
Yeah, exciting to think about what the Commanders might have in Jaylin Lane. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home, whether it's time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style? Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed, and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacement, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate. And for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed because Nova Fireplace and Stove takes pride in every flame that is lit and in every customer who is served. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You can also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship, and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. Time now to talk college football. This is a podcast about Washington, D.C. area sports, and so we on this podcast talk college football in terms of the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region. Those 7 teams: Maryland, Navy, Virginia Tech, Virginia, James Madison, Old Dominion, and Liberty. Each of the 7 teams had its 2025 season opener over the last 2 days. 6 of those games happened on Saturday. 1 happened on Sunday. Virginia Tech began its 2025 season with a 24-11 loss to South Carolina at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta on Sunday. South Carolina for this game was the number 13 team in the FBS for the Associated Press Top 25 poll, and this so could have been a win for the Hokies. So they entered the fourth quarter trailing at 10-8. But they lost the fourth quarter 14-3, including giving up an 80-yard punt return by defensive back Vakari Swain for a touchdown with 13:36 left in the fourth quarter in a classic case of Beamer Ball. South Carolina's head coach is Shane Beamer, son of legendary former Virginia Tech head coach Frank Beamer. Appropriate that Beamer Ball ended up being a big-time factor in this game. A rough game for Hokies quarterback Kyron Drones. He completed just 15 of his 35 pass attempts. He, over his 35 pass attempts, threw for just 221 yards. That works out to a yards per pass attempt of just 6.31. He had no touchdown passes versus 2 interceptions. He took 2 sacks. He had 10 carries for 37 yards when you take out the 2 sacks that he took. South Carolina should be a really good team, but Kyron Drones has got to be better. Tech's defense was mixed. The Hokies allowed South Carolina quarterback Lenora Sellers to average 11 yards per pass attempt and allowed South Carolina running backs Oscar Attaway III and Rasul Faison to combine for 21 carries for 100 yards. The Hokies gave up a 64-yard touchdown pass with 7:42 left in the fourth quarter. All of that, not so good. But the Hokies generated 4 sacks, including a sack for a safety, and held South Carolina to just 4 for 12 on third downs. The defense really wasn't that bad. This is season number 4 for Brent Pry as Hokies head coach. He has taken Tech to a bowl game in each of the last 2 seasons, but his overall record as Tech head coach now is just 16-22. Next up for Virginia Tech, home to Vanderbilt Saturday night at 7:30. Also with the season opener against a ranked team was Old Dominion. The Monarchs, they began their 2025 season with a 27-14 loss at Indiana on Saturday afternoon. Indiana for this game was the number 20 team in the FBS for the Associated Press Top 25 poll. ODU held a 7-0 lead late in the first quarter, but then gave up a 91-yard punt return for a touchdown by IU receiver Jonathan Brady with 9 seconds left in the first quarter and route to getting outscored at 27-7 the rest of the game. This was a frustrating game for ODU. It barely had the ball. ODU lost the time of possession battle by a whopping 22 minutes, 56 seconds. ODU ran just 45 offensive plays to IU's 89, but ODU averaged 6.98 yards per play to IU's 5.64, and the big reason for the high yards per play was two big touchdown runs by ODU's QB1, Colton Joseph. Now, he had a terrible game as a passer, but he had a very good game as a runner. Joseph went just 11 for 22 for just 96 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He took 1 sack, but Joseph had 9 carries for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns when you take out the sack that he took. He, on the first offensive snap of the game, had a 1st and 10, 75-yard shotgun read option touchdown run with 14:49 left in the first quarter. And he had a 3rd and 1, 78-yard shotgun read option touchdown run with 6:53 left in the fourth quarter. Season number 6 for Ricky Ronnie as ODU head coach. ODU on December 9th, 2019 announced the hiring of Ronnie as head coach, but his first game as ODU head coach was not until September 3rd, 2021, as ODU's 2020 season was canceled due to COVID. ODU last season went 5-7 overall, including 4-4 in the Sun Belt Conference. Next up for Old Dominion, home to North Carolina Central Saturday evening at 6. This is season number 7 for Mike Locksley, his Maryland head coach, not counting his time as the Terrapins interim head coach in 2015. We, on Friday's show, episode 1144, talked about Locksley's job potentially being on the line this season. Well, Maryland began its 2025 season with a 39-7 win over Florida Atlantic at CQ Stadium in College Park, Maryland on Saturday afternoon. The Terps extended their FBS best winning streak over non-conference opponents to 16 games. Yes, Maryland has the FBS's longest active winning streak over non-conference opponents. Locksley did go with true freshman Malik Washington as the Terps starting quarterback, as he won a 3-way competition with the UCLA transfer Justin Martin and redshirt freshman Christian Martin. No relation to Justin. Washington is who I wanted to win the quarterback competition. He did win it. He was guilty of some inaccuracy, but he ended up having a solid game. Washington went 27 for 43 for 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took no sacks. He had no rushing attempts. He did average just 6 yards per pass attempt, and he did quarterback a Terps offense that went just 5 for 17 on third downs, but he was victimized by multiple drops. So Malik Washington became the first true freshman to start a season opener for Maryland at quarterback since Perry Hills in 2012. Here was Mike Locksley during his postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon, and then you hear an exchange between Gene Wong of the Washington Post and Locksley.
You know, we started a little slow on offense, but it was great for our defense to be able to make a few plays to kind of jumpstart us. And once we got Malik settled down, I think we all are starting to see the making of what could be a very good quarterback here.
Mike, can you take us through the decision that ultimately led to Malik being named the starter, and then how do you feel he responded, especially after starting 3 for 11 passing today?
Yeah, as I always say with this quarterback battle, it's always who gives us the best opportunity to win, who gives us the best opportunity to score points. Malik did that. It was a comfort level we had, the maturity level he showed. And that's not to say that those other 2 guys didn't play and compete, because we feel like, as I've said before, and this is not coach speak, that we can win with all 3 of those guys. But we felt Malik gave us the best chance, and it's a calmness about him, the demeanor that you see as a few. He's a little older than his years, maybe the way he's handled this thing. And the best part about it, he's only going to get better.
Also, the Terps defense was dominant. The Terps held Florida Atlantic to just 7 points, just 3.77 yards per play, just 7 for 20 on third downs, and just 3 for 9 on fourth downs. The Terps recorded 6 interceptions, the program's most interceptions in a game since having 7 interceptions in a 42-25 win at Duke on November 14th, 1998. 2 true freshman edge defenders, Zaire Mathis and Sidney Stewart, made multiple impact plays. Mike Locksley has brought in some guys who hopefully are going to upgrade the defense. Mathis was a consensus 4-star recruit. Stewart is a cousin of 2024-2025 Maryland basketball freshman sensation Derek Queen, and is a nephew of former Bullets player Larry Stewart. The biggest negative for Maryland in this win: penalties. The Terps won by 32 points despite having 14 accepted penalties. for 100 yards. If you watch this game, the penalties drove you bonkers. Next up for Maryland, home to Northern Illinois, Friday night at 7:30. A very nice start to season number 3 for Brian Newberry as Navy head coach. Navy began its 2025 season with a 52-7 win over VMI at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, Maryland on Saturday. VMI is an FCS program. The midshipmen had 464 total net yards rushing to VMI's 15. Navy's QB1, Blake Horvath, he off his great 2024 season, went 6 for 7 for 66 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. He took no sacks. He had 2 carries for 14 yards. Navy's QB2, Braxton Woodson, he went just 3 for 7 for just 26 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took no sacks, but he had 7 carries for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Navy slot back Eli Heidenreich had 9 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown, and had 6 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets. Navy running back Alex Teska had 15 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown, and had 1 reception for 10 yards on 1 target. The Mids are coming off a terrific 2024 season, 10-3 overall, including 7-2 in the AAC. This saw 4 consecutive losing seasons. Next up for Navy, home to UAB Saturday afternoon at 3:30. We've talked about Mike Locksley perhaps being on the hot seat. Is Virginia head coach Tony Elliott on the hot seat? This is season number 4 for him as UVA head coach. His overall record as Cavaliers head coach coming into this season, just 11-23 overall, including 6-17 in the ACC. But a nice win on Saturday evening. Virginia began its 2025 season with a 48-7 win over Coastal Carolina at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville, Virginia on Saturday evening. Although the Cavs already have quarterback uncertainty. Their starting quarterback was North Texas graduate transfer Chandler Morris. He went 19 for 27 for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took no sacks. He had 5 carries for 50 yards, but he left the game early in the third quarter. This off a hit to his non-throwing shoulder at the end of a 28-yard run. The Cavs quarterback for the rest of the game was redshirt freshman Daniel Kaelin. He went just 3 for 9 for just 26 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took no sacks. He had 1 carry for 2 yards. So here was Tony Elliott during his postgame press conference on Saturday night on Chandler Morris.
Yeah, so looks like it's left shoulder. Mild possible AC. We'll get it reevaluated in the morning, but just wanted to be very cautious there. And he even said it on the ground. He's like, man, I should have got down. But that's the competitor that he is. He also said, Coach, I saw the end zone. I wanted to score. So that's the kind of player that he is. But we're encouraged that I'm very hopeful for next week.
Okay, so we'll see about Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris, by the way, started his 4th consecutive season opener. 2 for TCU, 1 for North Texas, and 1 for UVA. A tremendous UVA debut for Cavs receiver Cam Ross, a graduate transfer from James Madison. He had 7 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets, and had a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. And UVA's defense was great. The Wahoos held Coastal Carolina to just 7 points, just 3.79 yards per play, and just 1 for 14 on third downs. And the Hoos did this despite one of their best players, Cam Robinson, not playing due to injury. Next up for Virginia at NC State, Saturday at noon. Just mentioned James Madison, the Dukes. They began their 2025 season with a 45-10 win over Weber State at Bridgeforth Stadium in Harrisonburg, Virginia on Saturday evening. Weber State is an FCS program. JMU starting quarterback for a 2nd consecutive season is Alonzo Barnett III. He went 14 for 22 for 130 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. He took 1 sack. He had 4 carries for 30 yards and a touchdown when you take out the sack that he took. JMU had 313 total net rushing yards to Weber State's 64. Duke's running backs George Pettaway and Wayne Knight combined for 17 carries for 188 yards and a touchdown. This is season number 2 for Bob Chesney as JMU head coach. JMU in the 2024 season went 9-4 overall, including 4-4 in the Sun Belt Conference. So the Dukes notched a 27-17 win over Western Kentucky in the Boca Raton Bowl at FAU Stadium in Boca Raton, Mentone, Florida, this past December 18th. Next up for James Madison at Louisville, Friday night at 7. And Liberty, in its season opener, survived a scare against an FCS team. The Flames began their 2025 season with a 28-7 win over Maine at Williams Stadium in Lynchburg, Virginia on Saturday. But the game going into the fourth quarter was tied at 7. Liberty then won the fourth quarter 21-0. Continuing a trend from last season, Liberty in its 2024 season outscored opponents 124-69 in the fourth quarters of games. So Liberty's starting quarterback was Coastal Carolina transfer Ethan Vasco. He had a mixed game. Vasco completed just 19 of his 33 pass attempts, threw for just 197 yards, averaged just 5.97 yards per pass attempt, but Vasco had 3 touchdown passes versus no interceptions. He took no sacks, and he had 13 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. This is season number 3 for Jamie Chadwell as Liberty head coach. Liberty in its 2024 season went 8-3 overall, including 5-3 in Conference USA. The Flames did suffer a 26-7 loss to Buffalo in the Bahamas Bowl at Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium in the Bahamas this past January 4th. Next up for Liberty at Jacksonville State, Saturday at noon. Well, the Nationals' oh-so-bad season now is even worse. They, over the weekend, got swept in 3 games against the Tampa Bay Rays at Nationals Park and had bad injury news regarding multiple starting pitchers. Friday evening, a 4-1 loss to the Rays. Saturday, a 4-1 loss to the Rays, clinching the Nats finishing with a losing record for a 6th consecutive regular season. Sunday afternoon, a 7-4 loss to the Rays. The Nats now have lost 8 consecutive games. The Nats have reached a new low point in MLB's 2025 regular season at 30 games below 500, 53-83, worst record in the National League East, second worst record in the National League, and the run differential is minus 180, second worst run differential in the National League. And then there is the injury news. First of all, the Nats on Saturday afternoon announced having placed their ace, all-star starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to August 27th. This due to left shoulder inflammation, begging 2 questions. One, is Gore done for the season? The hope is that he isn't, but the timeline is tight. If he suffers any kind of a setback or just if the recovery isn't fast, he may well be done for the season. The last day of this regular season is September 28th. The other question with Gore going on the 15-day IL is this why he has been struggling? Gore, over his last 8 starts, has seen his ERA for this regular season go from 3.02 to 4.15. He, since the All-Star game, has not pitched well. Also, starting pitcher Jarlin Susana, who per MLB Pipeline is the Nats' number 2 pitching prospect and is the number 71 overall prospect in baseball. He left his start for AA Harrisburg on Saturday evening due to right tricep soreness. Susana this past May was diagnosed with a grade 1 UCL sprain in his right elbow. Each of these injuries can be a precursor to needing UCL surgery. That he now has had both of these injuries is concerning. You hope like heck that he doesn't need a UCL surgery of some kind, including Tommy John surgery, but these 2 injuries are worrisome. Starting pitcher Travis Sikora, who per MLB Pipeline is the Nats' number 1 pitching prospect and is the number 46 overall prospect in baseball. He on August 20th underwent Tommy John surgery. Meantime, the Nats during this 8-game losing streak have totaled a mere 20 runs. So the 4-1 loss to the Rays on Friday evening, the Nats scored just 1 run, despite totaling 12 hits and working 4 walks. Why? The Nats went 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The 12 hits were 2 doubles and 10 singles. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Saturday, the Nats scored just 1 run, totaled just 4 hits, and went just 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did draw 5 walks. The 4 hits were a double and 3 singles. And the 7-4 loss to the Rays on Sunday afternoon, the Nats scored 4 runs, totaled 7 hits, worked just 2 walks, went just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and struck out a staggering 16 times. So the 7 hits were a double and 6 singles. Another disappointing series for James Wood. He was the Nats' number 1 batter in each of the 3 games. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Friday evening, Wood, as the Nats' starting left fielder, went 0 for 2. Did draw 3 walks, marking his first game with more than 1 walk since July 21st. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Saturday would, as the Nats starting left fielder went 1 for 3 with an RBI single and a walk. The 7-4 loss to the Rays on Sunday afternoon would, as the Nats starting DH went 0 for 3 with a walk and 3 strikeouts. James Wood for this regular season is number 1 among all qualified Nats players in OPS at .831, but his OPS as of games through July 3rd was .958. An uneven series for C.J. Abrams. He was the Nats starting shortstop and number 2 batter in each of the 3 games. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Friday evening, Abrams went 3 for 5 with a double and 2 singles. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Saturday, Abrams went 0 for 2 with 2 walks and went 2 for 2 with stolen bases, marking his first game with more than 1 walk since June 18th. And the 7-4 loss to the Rays on Sunday afternoon, Abrams went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and committed a throwing error. C.J. Abrams for this regular season is number 2 among all qualified Nats players in OPS at .780. Also, the Nats on Friday afternoon announced having placed catcher Drew Millis on the 10-day injured list, retroactive to August 28th. This due to a fractured and dislocated left second finger on which he underwent surgery on Friday. His season is done. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having selected the contract of catcher C.J. Stubbs from AAA Rochester. The Nats signed Stubbs as a minor league free agent in May 2024. Also, outfielder Jaylin Lane is back. He in the 4-1 loss to the Rays on Friday evening returned from a 4-game absence caused by illness. He is the Nats starting DH and number 6 batter, went 1 for 4 with a single. Lyle in the 7-4 loss to the Rays on Sunday afternoon as the Nats starting left fielder and number 7 batter, went 2 for 4 with 2 singles. The Nats starting pitching in the team getting swept by the Rays in 3 games over the weekend was good in just 1 of the 3 games. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Friday evening, Mitchell Parker had a much-needed good outing. He allowed 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings with 7 strikeouts versus no walks. So he gave up 6 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 3 singles. He threw a lot of strikes, 91 pitches, 62 strikes, just 29 balls. So Parker in the top of the first allowed 2 runs as he gave up a 2-out full count 2-run homer by University of Maryland product Brandon Lau to right center field for a 2-0 Rays lead. And Parker in the top of the 5th gave up a leadoff opposite field homer by Everson Pereira to right center field for a 3-1 Rays lead. The homer went a projected 421 feet per Statcast. But still, Parker was good, and this was off him having been really bad over his previous 5 starts. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Saturday, Jay Gervin allowed 4 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were 2 home runs and 3 singles. He issued a walk. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes, 83 pitches, 57 strikes, just 26 balls. Irvin in the top of the first gave up a 2-out 3-run homer by Josh Lowe, brother of former Nats first baseman Nathaniel Lowe, to center field for a 3-0 Rays lead. The homer went a projected 409 feet per Statcast, and Irvin in the top of the 4th gave up a 1-out solo homer by Josh Lowe to right center field for a 4-0 Rays lead. That homer went a projected 423 feet per Statcast. Irvin had yet another bad first inning, but he was good for the rest of his outing. But man, has he been bad in first innings. Jake Irvin for this regular season has a first inning ERA of 9.96, worst among all qualified pitchers in the majors. Jake Irvin to me is a perfect candidate for the opener strategy, but the Nats do not seem to want to use that. In the 7-4 loss to the Rays on Sunday afternoon, Brad Lord struggled for a 3rd consecutive start. He allowed 7 runs in 3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were a grand slam, a triple, a double, and 2 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 62 pitches, 36 strikes, 26 balls. Lord, in the top of the 2nd, allowed 6 runs, including giving up a 2-out grand slam by Brandon Lau to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 6-0 Rays lead. Brad Lord, over his last 3 starts, has seen his ERA for this regular season go from 3.26 to 4.34. A bright spot for the Nats in getting swept by the Rays in 3 games over the weekend was the bullpen. The Nats bullpen has been a lot better lately. Nats relievers in this series combined to allow 1 run in 11 and 2/3 innings. It's a shame that the Nats offense has been so bad lately and the Nats starting pitching has been so bad lately because the bullpen has actually been performing quite well. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Friday evening, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 2/3 innings. The 4-1 loss to the Rays on Saturday, 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 perfect innings. Among those relievers, Mason Thompson, he tossed a perfect top of the 8th. The Nats on Saturday afternoon announced having recalled Thompson from AAA Rochester. And the 7-4 loss to the Rays on Sunday afternoon, 5 Nats relievers combined for 6 scoreless innings. P.J. Poulin tossed 2 scoreless innings. Clayton Beeter tossed a perfect top of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Shinosuke Ogasawara tossed a perfect top of the 7th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Jose A. Ferrer tossed a perfect top of the 8th, and Orlando Revolta tossed a scoreless, hitless, and walkless top of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts. The only blemish was a throwing error by shortstop C.J. Abrams. Next up for the Nats is a 3-game series against the Miami Marlins at Nationals Park. Game 1 Monday afternoon at 1:05. Andrew Alvarez will be the Nats starting pitcher. He'll be making his MLB regular season debut. Game 2 Tuesday evening at 6:45. Cade Cavalli will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Wednesday afternoon at 1:05. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Well, the Orioles now are just 2-9 over their last 11 games. The O's over the weekend lost 2 out of 3 games at the San Francisco Giants, with the 2 losses being blowout losses. Late night on Friday night, a 15-8 loss at the Giants in a game in which the O's allowed the Giants to score at least 1 run in 7 of the 8 innings in which the Giants batted. Saturday night, an 11-1 win at the Giants. Sunday, a 13-2 loss at the Giants. So, yeah, the Orioles' lone win in this series was a blowout win. But the O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 61-76, worst record in the American League East, second worst record in the American League. The Nationals have the second worst record in the National League, and the O's have the second worst record in the American League. Now, the Orioles' offense, which had been reeling, was good in 2 of the 3 games. So the 15-8 loss at the Giants late night on Friday night, the O's scored 8 runs, a total 10 hits, worked 3 walks, and went 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The 10 hits were a home run, 2 doubles, and 7 singles. The 11-1 win at the Giants on Saturday night, the O's scored 11 runs, totaled 13 hits, worked 4 walks, and went 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The 13 hits were 3 home runs, a triple, 4 doubles, and 5 singles. Samuel Basayo, he hit his first MLB regular season home run. He is the Orioles starting catcher and number 8 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer and a walk. But the 13-2 loss at the Giants on Sunday, the O's scored just 2 runs, although the O's did total 10 hits and did work 6 walks, but the 10 hits were 2 doubles and 8 singles, and the O's went just 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. A good series, though, for Ryan Mountcastle, who has not had a good season. He was the Orioles' number 4 batter in each of the 3 games in the series. The 15-8 loss at the Giants late night on Friday night, Mountcastle, as the Orioles starting first baseman, went 3 for 5 with 2 RBI doubles and a 2-run single. The 11-1 win at the Giants on Saturday night, Mountcastle, as the Orioles starting DH, went 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer and a double. And the 13-2 loss at the Giants on Sunday, Mountcastle, as the Orioles starting first baseman, went 2 for 4 with 2 singles and a walk. Ryan Mountcastle was on the 10-day injured list from May 31st to June 23rd. He was on the 60-day injured list from June 23rd to August 8th. All of this due to a right hamstring strain. He, for this regular season at the major league level, has an OPS of just 684. Him missing so much time and him not being as productive as he has been, a big part of why the O's have had such a disappointing season. The Orioles starting pitching in the team losing 2 out of 3 games at the Giants over the weekend was really bad in games 1 and 3 and really good in game 2. The 15-8 loss at the Giants late night on Friday night, Dean Kramer was bad for a second consecutive start. He allowed 7 runs in 3 innings. He gave up 9 hits, which were a double, and 8 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded just 1 strikeout. He threw 76 pitches, 48 strikes, 28 balls. So Kramer in the bottom of the first allowed 4 runs. He, for this regular season, now 27 games, including 26 starts. ERA of 4.52, whip of 1.27. Dean Kramer has been so inconsistent, at times great, at times really bad. The 11-1 win at the Giants on Saturday night. Trevor Rogers again was terrific. He allowed 1 run in 7 innings with 5 strikeouts versus no walks. He gave up just 5 hits, which were a home run and 4 singles. He threw a lot of strikes, 92 pitches, 66 strikes, just 26 balls. He became the first Orioles pitcher to pitch at least 7 innings in each of at least 4 consecutive outings since Chris Tillman in July 2016. Trevor Rogers now for this regular season at the major league level. 14 starts, ERA of 1.39, whip of 0.82, 81 strikeouts versus 19 walks. He has been sensational. And when it comes to your Trevor Rogers wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for this regular season, that number as of games through Saturday, 5.0. 5.0 WAR over just 14 starts. That is absurd. And the 13-2 loss at the Giants on Sunday, Tomoyuki Sagano allowed 7 runs in 3 1/3 innings. He gave up 10 hits, which were a home run, a triple, a double, and 7 singles. He did have 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk, but he over his 3 1/3 innings threw a whopping 80 pitches, 48 strikes, 32 balls. So Tomoyuki Sagano now for this regular season, 26 starts, ERA of 4.41, whip of 1.32. The Orioles relief pitching in the team losing 2 out of 3 games at the Giants over the weekend. Terrible in games 1 and 3. Good in game 2. The 15-8 loss at the Giants late night on Friday night. 3 Orioles relievers combined to allow 8 runs, 4 earned in 5 innings. Corbin Martin allowed 3 runs in 2 innings. He gave up 2 home runs. Yunier Cano tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings. Grant Wolfram allowed 5 runs, 1 earned in 1 2/3 innings as the O's in a 4-run 7th for the Giants committed 3 errors. So the O's in their 11-1 win at the Giants on Saturday night used just 1 reliever, Sean Dubin. He tossed 2 scoreless and hitless innings with 2 swinging strikeouts. And the 13-2 loss at the Giants on Sunday, 3 Orioles relievers and 1 Orioles position player combined to allow 6 runs, 3 earned in 4 2/3 innings. Cade Stroud tossed 1 2/3 scoreless innings. Corbin Martin officially allowed 3 runs, all of which were unearned in 2/3 of an inning. Yunier Cano officially tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings, but he to the first batter he faced issued a 2-out bases-loaded walk in a 3-run 6th for the Giants. And a catcher, Alex Jackson, allowed 3 runs in 1 inning. He in the bottom of the 8th allowed 3 runs. Next up for the O's is the 3-game series at the San Diego Padres. Game 1, Monday evening at 6:40. Kyle Bradish will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2, Tuesday night at 9:40. Tyler Wells will be the Orioles starting pitcher, and he'll be making his 2025 MLB regular season debut. Game 3, Wednesday afternoon at 4:10. Cade Povich will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday's show, episode 1146. We'll have plenty for you on the Commanders. Also on Tuesday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are home to the Miami Marlins Monday afternoon at 1:05 in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The O's are at the San Diego Padres Monday evening at 6:40 in Game 1 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Okay, we wound up 5 and 11. Not very good.